Good afternoon. We are in the midst of the Torah reading called Parsha Shlach, which should have been the quintessential portion of the Shliach, the agent. And instead of the Shliach being successful and creating happiness and comfort and advancement, Moshe Rabbeinu sends Shluchim, sends agents, and instead of happiness and success, creativity, abundance, the very opposite takes place. Death, destruction, a prolonged sojourn in the desert, and ultimately Moshe Rabbeinu is lost to us until Mashiach comes. What happened? How is it possible for there to be such errors? And even more so, how is it possible that Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, should be convinced to send these people, these agents, Shlach L'cha Anoshim, send men on your behalf, and they should spy out and they should examine the land of Canaan and come back and give a report? And I will just give you one particular detail. The reason why people make certain conclusions about certain people is because they evaluate people and evaluate matters according to their own powers and their own abilities. One finds it difficult to see that which another person possesses, which is beyond your own abilities. It's very, very hard and very almost impossible. When we see somebody doing things in a certain way, we project our own emotions, our own thoughts. We project what would we be doing if we were that person. And so we evaluate other people based upon our experience, based upon how we assume that person is functioning and what are the motives, etc., etc. And we evaluate things based upon how we see ourselves. There is a difference between an ordinary person and a gibor. A gibor isn't just someone who's a little stronger than somebody else or a lot stronger than somebody else. A gibor is someone whose abilities come from the fact that he's able to focus and to create something within himself, to focus all of his abilities into one particular direction and get that thing to be done. It doesn't make a difference if the person is a gibor, is powerful in his intellect, powerful in his emotion, powerful in his physicality. A gibor is someone who is not just stronger than you. A gibor is someone who's able to focus and intensely project the inner powers that he has or she has in that one particular point to get the goal that he's after. When you look at people, let's say you're a 5'2" weakling, weigh about 100 pounds soaking wet, and you're asked to stand up in front of somebody that's over 6 feet and weighs about 300 pounds, you've lost before you started, because you're saying, I can't beat this person. This person is much stronger than I am. And yet precisely that particular image, that particular contrast was the contrast between King David and Goliath. Goliath was huge. According to the measurements, he was close to 10 feet. And he weighed anywhere between 500 and 800 pounds. And David wasn't specifically a tall guy. He was a short guy. He might have been strong and powerful, but he was short and compact. And yet David did not see size. David saw, where is this man's weakness? And I'm going to get that man's weakness. And that's the difference between a powerful person and an ordinary person. He's able to focus on how to get the thing done, and he's able to figure out how he can get it done, and he actually does it. The Shluchim evaluated situations based upon their abilities. They never, for example, for one moment, thought about it that perhaps they have to look at things from the perspective of Moshe's abilities, the abilities of Moshe Rabbeinu, who they are acting as his Shluchim. What, for example, would Moshe Rabbeinu have done if he sees Sheshai, Salmai, Achim and Sheshai and Salmai, the Yelidei Hanok, the giants? What would he have said? And the answer is just a big blob of nothings. Because Moshe Rabbeinu did not see size as a problem. He never saw a problem. He only looked for solutions. He knew how to be successful, how to get success utilizing all the tools that God had given him. You see, when people see other people, they impute their ideas, their images on other people, imagining themselves in that particular role. It's one of the reasons why when people who never met the Rebbe said certain things about him or certain things about his teachings, because they had never ever seen him, never met him, never experienced him, they judged him by their own selves. The 10 spies who came back said that this was an impossible task because it was impossible for them to think that they could do it. They were not asked whether they could do it or not. They were asked to bring back a report. Are there fortified cities? Are there not fortified cities? What are the roads like? What is the land like? Etc., etc. They were not asked to make any conclusions. The reason for that is because leave the solution, leave the conclusions for Moshe Rabbeinu. They have to just give a report. And they assumed that they were the agents of Klal Yisrael, not just Moshe. And even if they were the agents of Moshe, they felt that they had to give an honest report based upon their assessment, through their own eyes, through their own persona. They didn't see as Moshe Rabbeinu would see. They did not appreciate that Moshe had a different perspective, just as King David had a different perspective on Goliath. We're not talking about divine intervention. They're told they're going to have to fight. So if they have to fight, how can you fight against a guerrilla, somebody who's far bigger than you, faster than you, stronger than you? How can you fight against them? Because that was their conclusion of themselves, of their own powers. Moshe Rabbeinu did not cower to anyone. Moshe Rabbeinu only saw that if I have a mission to do, I have to figure out how to do that mission. And so instead of seeing themselves as the Shluchim of Moshe, they saw themselves as the Shluchim who was supposed to assess whether they could do it or not. Not that they were doing it with the power of Moshe, they thought they were doing things with their own power. And that's the difference between the Shluchim of Parsha Shlach and the Shluchim of the Lubavitch Rebbe. Because, tell her the truth, there is no reason why the success of Lubavitch should be so phenomenal. The Pew report that just came out says that Lubavitch today is as big and powerful as the entire Reform or conservative movement. 38% of people, of Jewish people, have had interaction with Chabad. It's just an incredible vindication of the vision of the Lubavitch Rebbe. People used to make fun of Lubavitch, especially the Lubavitch hats. They used to tell you, you know what a Lubavitch hat is like? You take a fedora, you take a hat, and you leave it in the middle of Eastern Parkway and have 100 cars run over it. And then, for good measure, you stick some mud into it and you bat it down and wait until it dries, and then you have a good Lubavitch hat. People made fun of Lubavitchers and their hats, and their jackets that didn't match their pants. And a Rebbe who believed that Mashiach could come and will come. And a Rebbe whose focus was to show you just how much you could do if you put your mind to it. The Rebbe wasn't looking for extraordinary people. He was looking for ordinary people to do a job honestly, as if he would do it, and the success that they would see from the job that they would do was coming from the fact that they were doing it on behalf of their Rebbe, on behalf of Moshe Rabbeinu. Had the original Shluchim believed that they were the agents of Moshe, they never would have gotten frightened, and we would have entered Eretz Yisrael right away. We've taken over 3,000 years to realize we're not doing it with our own power. We're doing it with the power of Moshe. And in this generation, the power of the Rebbe. But the Rebbe has been gone for now since 1994, 27 years. And Lubavitch has tripled in size, quadrupled its effect on the Jewish community. How is it possible? The answer is the kids coming out of the yeshivas realize that if they're going to do the job of a shliach, they're not doing it with their own power. And they come, and they do, and they come, and they succeed, because we're coming with the power of Moshe. And that power, believe it or not, is found in every one of us, every Jew. If you believe that you are an extension of the soul of Moshe Rabbeinu, the teacher of the Torah, you have the power to fulfill just about anything. You can't stand on your head and spit wooden nickels. You may not even be a good weightlifter, you may not even be a jogger. But the success of your mission is assured if you realize that you're an extension of Moshe. And that's the difference. And that's the lesson of Parsha Shlach. Forget about yourself. It's not about you. It's about who sent you. What power are you connected to? If you realize that, there are no barriers. Mashiach will come.